gotta start recording. Sorry. All right, Brian, you're on.
All right, so we'll call this meeting to order. We'll begin with the roll call. Commissioner McManus present.
Commissioner Joshua Wilson present.
Ray Mitchell, Commissioner.
Deputy Chief Jeff Young.
Julie Good, Secretary Examiner.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So we have, looks like a couple items for action items. Action item A is to approve the minutes of the February 17th, 2023 Civil Service Commission special meeting. I didn't have any amendments to that, and any other commissioners?
I
No.
make a motion that we accept it as written.
I'll second the motion.
All right, so all in favor of that motion? Aye.
Ray Mitchell says aye.
Yep. Josh Wilson says aye.
Brian McManus says aye. I'll get this down, Julie. All right, next call to action is to certify the entry-level police officer continuous testing eligibility list. Are there any updates to that list, Chief, that we need to be aware of?
I don't think we have anybody on that list or new names on that list, right, Julie?
We don't, but we did take a few people off that were disqualified.
Okay.
So we've got a little bit shorter list this week, but that just helps the chief get to those candidates that are qualified.
Fantastic. All
Yeah,
right,
Chief, it says scheduling command interview. Is that with yourself or the chief?
It's typically with both and sometimes with Commander Thomas. So matter of fact, we just updated. So when you asked for the update, I just sent Julie information on a couple of the candidates that we disqualified as of today. And unfortunately, the candidate that I mentioned to you last week that we did an interview with is going to have to do his remaining 3 years with the Air Force. So he's going to be sending us a email saying I'm going to withdraw. But the good news with that one is that he will be processed as a volunteer for us, and we'll keep him engaged with our department. And then when he finally does get his terminal leave from the military, we'll be able to start really processing him and get him into the academy. But again, there were 2 other candidates off of the entry level list just this afternoon that we disqualified. But and we are working. So there was 2 candidates we talked to yesterday that we are pushing forward into the process. So they're going to be scheduled for their polygraphs and then moving into background.
great. All right, anybody have any questions on the entry-level police officer
I
list?
make a motion that we accept the entry level continuous testing eligibility list as written.
All right,
I'll second that motion.
all right. I agree with that motion. Commissioner McManus?
Okay, Ray Mitchell agrees with that.
Josh Wilson agrees with it.
Motion passes. All right, next on our list is certify entry-level advanced police officer continuous testing eligibility list. Again, any updates on that one, Julie or the chief?
So we've added candidate 5 is
Okay.
new this week. And then Chief, I'll give you an update. I reached out to candidate 4 and your emails had gone to their spam folder. So they now have those and they'll be in touch shortly. They're excited to get started.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, when they're on hold like that, what are they held for typically?
So what we're doing is we've put them in a hold category, and that's an item that we'd like to discuss with the commission too, is, should we hold these candidates or just disqualify them because they're not a fit for our agency? Or do we amend our civil service rules to say that they're going to be disqualified for a temporary period of time? Because there's some people that we're just finding some personal conduct issues or something where they're not a fit for our agency or not a fit for our community or something like that. So when they're in a hold status, we're just not processing them.
What sort of language do you need in our procedures to allow you just to disqualify them because of those reasons?
I think it would probably be helpful if we had some more either broad range to disqualify rather than trying to identify a very specific reason, because like I've told you before, we are seeing a lot more of the drug use and drug history, and there's a lot of automatic disqualifiers that we're seeing with some of those folks. So when it comes to that, they're not a fit for our agency or they're not a fit for the community. It's those types where we sit here and go, okay, can we move on from them or can we just disqualify them from the process? Because we do have one of those candidates that is sitting on our list right now for the entry level side that is definitely not a fit for our agency for a number of different reasons.
There's a couple options that the chief can utilize is the police department has a list of automatic disqualifiers that they update periodically. Mostly to keep in touch with the times, things are changing so quick. And so the chief can update those at any time to reasonable standards that are just unacceptable. The level that anything that fits in those categories is unacceptable. And what we've done in the past is brought that to the commission so you guys can see that and kind of see what changes we've made. The other option he has is under the list of reasons to disqualify someone, there's kind of a catch-all at the bottom of material reasons. Because the department does have an obligation through case law to hire people who are kind of sound moral character and that type of a thing. So there's some liability there. I think what's important to have for the commission is, even if it's for a material reason, if that's kind of the, I think it's item J or something on the list. I think it's important for the commission to have, or at least for me to have in records, what those things are. If it's, drug history or other personal behaviors that just aren't acceptable to a police department. So at least we have those, because if a candidate comes back and appeals to the commission and says, well, why was I disqualified? And we just say, well, it was for material reasons. They're not going to know what that means. They're going to want specific examples.
So it sounds like, Chief, if we went with option A and you could kind of line item out the things or knockouts for you guys, that might be the best way to travel, or at least bring that back to the table for our next meeting and we can discuss it.
Yeah, I think so. Just certain things that'll just give us a little bit more teeth to wash out the candidates that we know are just not going to work here. I mean, there's a couple of folks that we have talked to that may be good officers, just in another agency.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think anything we can do to help empower you guys to move that through the list, I'm open to that. So if our next meeting, if you want to bring something back to either option A or option B, if you will, we'll definitely take a look at that and make a change.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. The other thing that we wanted to address too was similar to the process that we developed for our laterals and advanced candidates. We'd like to maybe try to apply something there too with our other candidates, because right now, as you look at this list, it's all based upon the PST score. So when they took that test with public safety testing, their scores are based solely on that. And we know that there's different things that people bring to the table they have in their background, like they have some military qualifications, or they have experience with maybe not a police department but with another similar type agency, where they're stuff that they can bring to the table that we can use to say this particular candidate is, despite whatever score they may have, is much more desirable for our agency because of X factors that we didn't consider when they did their initial application, or we just didn't have that information until we found out from their personal history statements or something along those lines that give us the insight into that candidate to say, yes, this is a person that we want to pursue.
Right.
Is there a way to increase those scores based upon those sorts of qualifications? And the reason I'm saying that, I'm thinking of my own background in California, where we'd have the testing for the state, but then also additional points were awarded for certain types of services, such as military or whatnot. Is there any sort of process that can be applied to the civil service rules to consider that, or to give credit in that way?
I think you've already got the language in there. Certainly for veterans, there's veterans scoring criteria that's already, it's part of it's RCW requires it. So that credit is there already that we apply automatically. But I think that's a great idea from Chief Young, is to add that to entry level as well.
Yeah.
Very similar to what we're doing with the advanced entry and the laterals. And I think the rule, we looked at the rules yesterday, the chief and I think the language is there that would allow them to do that. And I think it's a terrific idea.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, right now, this is all about speed, right? Getting through the process as fast as possible to capture the good candidates out there. So I think that whatever we can do to kind of unrestrict you, take the gloves off a little bit for you, that still stays in line with, due diligence. I think I'm all for that. So I would say, bring it back to the table for next week's meeting. I'm imagining we're going to have one next week. And then we can make it official, Julian. And I don't think we can do it today, could we? Or I think we need to have the parameters.
There's not even really a motion that's needed necessarily to do that, because I think the rules already allow it. But maybe next week, if you want, I can maybe point out that language to you, or we can all look at it together to see if you recommend any changes to the rules.
Okay. Yeah, if there's nothing that's tangible that we have to amend physically, I make a motion that we pass that now.
And no motion's necessary, Brian, but I
Okay.
appreciate the effort.
Okay. All right. So we'll just,
Yeah.
are we in agreement that we're gonna let the chief and Julie move forward on that initiative?
Well, I'm in agreement, but I think they want to bring it back to us. And what hear you saying?
We don't need to.
You don't need to?
If you'd like us to, we can. If not, we'll just.
I don't have any problem with you guys going ahead.
No, we don't need to hold it up for another week on my account, so I'm good with it.
Okay.
I'm okay with you proceeding, but I'd love to get an update.
Yeah, I'd love to still get the update, but yeah, don't wait for us, chief.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
So and one thing I want to point out with that too is that, we're going to be equitable with all of our candidates. We're not going to be, saying, okay, we just don't like this person or whatever. We're giving everyone the equitable shot. And I think that's an important piece of this here that we need to have on the record that says, while some candidates have some things in their background or that give them a few more preference points, if you will, like we would with the veterans and so forth. There are people that have those things in their background versus hey, I just scored I'm going to throw out a random test score of 88 on the written, so therefore I'm higher than this person, but yet this other candidate has all these different attributes, skills and qualifications that are highly desirable. And Brian, you're absolutely correct. It's about the speed, because we're competing with all these other agencies right now. And, some of them are just getting people through the door. And like we said last week, we're not going to sacrifice our standards to get somebody through the door. We want to get that right candidate that's going to serve this community very well and represent our department and our city well.
Yeah, I think you and Chief Biasio know what that best looks like. So I'm 100% behind it.
And I think in the long run, some of these agencies that are trying to, shortcome, and try to speed things, it's gonna be to their detriment.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I would like for us also, based off what's been being said is, this hold process for people that we know that we aren't going to be taking, that can add additional time and communication as they wonder about that. And to be honest with them and to expedite it on our end and also not hold them up. I think that moving forward with finding the language around that will be helpful
Absolutely.
for how to let them go.
When we reject somebody, do we get inquiries from other departments that they may have applied for and they ask, well, why didn't you take this person?
We do all the time. So we just had that particular circumstance last week where one of our candidates was in the process with another agency, and they did reach out to both Julie and I to figure out what's going on. And it's not uncommon. So when we do our background investigations, we ask those other agencies, well, what did they tell you? And we see it all the time where I'll throw out Washington State Patrol specifically. They disqualify people or they reject them from the process for a number of reasons, and sometimes don't even tell them why. But I know for us, if we were to hear that there was an agency that said, yeah, we just don't think that this candidate was a fit for our department. It doesn't necessarily mean they're not a fit to be an officer, just not with that department, for a variety of reasons. You know, for example, if you look at Seattle, you might have just a really busy precinct, or King County. They're in a very busy part of the area, or they just wouldn't mesh well. So that doesn't necessarily kill the person from any process of becoming an officer. It just, we let them move on. We move on with the candidates that we want.
Now, when they say it's just not a fit for their agency, are we allowed to come back and say, well, can you expand on that?
Well, we can ask them to expand on that. And, you know, sometimes it's like, and I've asked that question of one particular department, which, okay, what do you mean by they weren't a fit for your agency?
Yeah.
And again, it comes back down to the community interaction was just not there, or the pace of the department was just too great for that candidate to handle, or something like that. So, you know, you have certain candidates that will perform very well in high stress, high speed environments, and certain ones that won't, you know. So a smaller department with less calls for service, and, you know, that, you know, because when we're running and gunning all the time, it gets draining on people. And some people have the resiliency to deal with that very well. Others do not.
Fair enough. All right. So I think we are at the point where we can get a motion to pass the civil entry-level advanced police officer list. Isn't that where we left off, Julie? Or
That's it.
all right, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to certify the entry-level advanced police officer
I will
continuous
second
testing
that motion.
list.
All right. Commissioner McManus agrees with the motion.
Ray Mitchell agrees with it.
Commissioner Joshua Wilson agrees with it.
All right, motion passes. All right, on to the next one, which is a staffing and recruiting update.
We're working hard. As you guys
Yeah, I know you
we're
are.
all working hard, and when we appreciate you being here and taking the time out of your days to be with us for these special meetings, and to work with us to give us the ability to hire these people. So again, we have a candidate starting next week on March 1st. He is from Lake Forest Park, so we're really excited to get him on board. We just were informed by public safety testing that they have completed the background on one of our other laterals, and we're just waiting for that to get from their office to our office so that we can review that. We were also advised by PST that our other candidate from out of state on the lateral side is probably going to have about a 10-day background investigation, and then we'll get their report. So hopefully we'll get that report pretty quick too. So that'll be phenomenal. And we will make sure to invite you to the swearing in ceremony. Currently, Mr. Brecht will be sworn in on March 7th at the council meeting. Should anything change where we're going to do an in-house one, I'll let you guys know about that. We also have the background completed and an offer of employer, conditional offer of employment for one of the entry-level candidates. That was just done last Friday afternoon. So that candidate's going to be going to psych and medical. And then again, we had 2 candidates that came in yesterday that we are pushing into the process, which means they're going to get their polygraphs done, and then we'll push them into background right after that. So we're really moving along. We have 2 command interviews scheduled for next week, and with the commission's assistance, we're going to try to work out that other process of adding some points to people based upon their things in the background. And hopefully by our next meeting, we'll be able to give you some really good information on how things are shaking out based upon that.
Awesome.
And
Fantastic.
what I did, just for your reference, the eligibility lists that are behind or after the recruiting update spreadsheet. In this case, it's the lateral and record specialists. They're just provided for your reference. Just no action is needed on those today, but in case you're wondering, oh, how many were on that list, or what are the scores looking like, they're just there for your reference.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Now, Julie, the community service officer, Cindy Brooks's old job, have we put out a notice of the opening for that?
That was filled months ago. Yeah.
Oh, it's already been
It's been
filled.
Yep. So we have 1 authorized position, but no vacancies.
Ah,
So that one's active, and
okay.
employee who's doing great things in that role.
Good.
So now, Ray, we're moving so fast, you can't even keep up with it anymore.
Hey, that's not hard to do.
That's a good problem to have, though. That's a good problem to have. All right. Do we have any new business this week? I didn't have any.
One more thing, just to add on that staffing and recruiting update, I did take
Yeah.
item B off of there, which is the update from the chief periodically on the new academy discussions.
Mm,
Just because he mentioned that there really isn't any new information to share each week, but he
Yeah.
promises to come back and update you when there is something new to share.
Very good. Spread the news when you get the news. I like it. Excellent. Thanks, Julie. Does anybody have any new business? I didn't have any new business.
The only new business, I thought about that, Joshua, Chief was gonna bring us more up to date on legislative issues, or is that new business?
That would be considered continuing new business.
Yeah, so with the legislative updates, like I said, we're going to be having a meeting with WASPIC tomorrow, or a legislative briefing to give us the updates. We know that the pursuits bill is a pretty important one. We've got House Bill 1635, which deals with our canines. And for the commission's knowledge, we have the only fentanyl certified dog in the state right now. So you're going to see some different media coming out on that. It's because there was an article in the Linwood Times. I think the Seattle Times also had one talking about the need for a fentanyl dog. And, we've been here since November with a certified dog, and I don't think people are really too aware of that. So we have made that known to the Sheriffs and Police Chiefs Association in Snohomish County. And like I said, we're going to be putting out some media on that. Canine Officer Dreyer has been doing a great job with SIA and really trying to network and build that program a little bit more. So we can if we can put the legislative update item on the agenda for next week, Julie, I'll give whatever update we can as far as where these bills lie, with pursuits. If there's any of particular interest, if you could please let me know what those are, so I can at least look in on those to find out, where they are, either in the House or the Senate, or whether in the Rules Committee or Ways and Means Committee, or whatever it is. Be happy to get back to you.
Can you list the bills on our agenda? Or legislative update and then put 3 or 4, or is that?
If you know which ones that you want to talk about, I can do that.
Well, I defer to the chief.
Yeah. If not, we could just put legislative updates or something.
Yeah, I think we just keep it generic. Legislative updates are like politicians. There are a million of them, right? So and all of them getting nowhere fast. So let's just that is an open topic, maybe, and just have it under legislative updates if everyone's
Chief,
okay.
was that dog trained for fentanyl when we got him, or was that training later on?
That training came later on. She was trained in it when Officer Dreyer first certified with her as a team. And I think he did that, I want to say like last May or something, was when he went through the initial battery of training. And then we wanted to get more specific with it. So we went and partnered with a canine handler out of Oregon, and it follows the California Post standards. So we're going to take that information and present it to the CJTC to see if we can get a canine certification, because there are 3 primary odors that the narcotic dogs look for, and that's heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. So we want to add fentanyl to that, and also get the state certification for our canine team and any other subsequent canine teams, so that that odor is recognized, and we can use that as another qualifier in a court when we're looking to get a conviction. Yeah.
Would we ever be called in by another agency to help because our dog is trained for fentanyl?
We have. Officer Dreyer has assisted several other agencies thus far.
That's great. That's good to know. We'll have to see if we can get King 5 to do a news article on that. It'd be good. Get some good press.
We have a plan, sir.
Awesome. Good to know you got a plan, Chief. All right. Any other new business, Ray or Josh?
Oh, I'm good.
Good. All right.
I have no new business.
Excellent. Well, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
All right.
Josh Wilson agrees.
Brad
Ray
Marino
Mitchell
agrees.
agrees.
Ray agrees. We're all agreed.
Thank you all.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of the week.
Thank you.